Hi everyone. Here's one last draft recap for the first chapter before Rise of the Floodborn comes out. It's a bit of a long one, so let's get right into it. Unfortunately, I wasn't filming the first few packs. I thought I was, but I wasn't. So as you can see, my first pack opened a Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor. Perfectly good card, unlikely to be played, but it's inkable, still worth I think $25, so I'm happy to take it. Jasmine is a card I've been very up on. Come back to in a second as we look at this pack. Nothing too crazy here. Looks like probably Mickey, Beastmere, otherwise just a vanilla character. Go with the Mickey for some ramp. All right, back to the second pick, Jasmine. Uh, I've been high on the card and been very interested to see how it plays out, and so I definitely took that card there. We'll come back to that. Looks like I picked up Mufasa, just a solid high cost drop, and then in the fourth pack I took a Mad Hatter, very good card, but my curve is pretty high right now, so definitely looking to pick up some lower drops. Probably happy to take a one drop here, and I do take the Flounder there. Um, so yeah, back to the Jasmine. Just the fact that the Jasmine does heal when it comes into play, as well as every quest, and just having a big body to quest for two, just very solid. It ended up being very good against Grab Your Sword, which I still think is possibly the best card in this set for limited. So very happy with how that turned out. All right, let's see. We've got again. I already know that my deck is very expensive, so at the same time, I don't love the 1/3s for three. And I was trying to stay disciplined with picking a lot of three drops, so I do follow my own rule there and take the wardrobe. That being said, this deck ends up just being kind of more on the high end cost wise, just due to how the draft played out. So at this point, I'll mention. So this is a 16-man draft. They split us up into two pods. You only play within your pod, and I'll be the first to admit that my pod was definitely a little weaker. No offense to anybody in there, but the other pod had a lot more experienced drafters and players. So might see some strange things in this draft. All right, happy to take another one cost character there. Aurora and Captain are only so. While they'll make a deck, I'm not excited to play them. Whereas definitely want those one drops. A very late Jumbo Jukiba. Very happy to see that. Though you see, I'll take a second look at that Moana because I realize, hey, I mean, it's actually a pretty similar card. Jumba does have total one more stat, right? 4/5 versus the 2/6, so 9 total stats versus the 8. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if Moana hits an interesting sweet spot though in limited, but I'd much rather take the Jumba there. That being said, I did have a friend who did draft with Teka, and his opponent actually did have the Moana and actually managed to banish the Teka when playing the Moana. That's a pretty huge swing, so maybe it's a good card to have hidden in your sideboard. All right, so this one is a long one, so I'll try to keep you all entertained as this goes on. Like I said, was maybe a few newer players in the draft, so definitely slowed down at some points. Ooh, nothing good here. We definitely don't want to take the uninkable. We basically don't want to play any of these cards, but what is the most playable card if you had to play it? So I take the Vicious Betrayal there. Again, they're just likely to be ink, but what are you going to do if just in case? I mean, either of those are pretty close in my book. I'm not really saying the Cut to the Chase is much better than the Visa's Mind. So, all right, Rapunzel playable. I don't really want to because it's not inkable, but it's a perfectly good card. For those of you drafting, if your draft is in a more casual format, you can probably look at your cards while you draft. Just make sure to keep your piles separate. Make sure the cards you've drafted are very clear. If people have a problem with it, then just review it in between packs. But again, it's mostly casual for fun. People are hopefully just having a good time with Lorcana. So if anybody makes a big deal about it, then just change. Or an alternative is there are people who actually, as they draft, they might sleeve their cards. They will actually just place their picks by cost, so you can see what cost you've picked. You might reveal a few things to your opponents, but I don't think anybody is paying too much attention. Man, this is a loaded pack. So many good cards. Really, really wanted that Dragonfire. I don't know that I've ever played with the Dragonfire Unlimited, and I would really like to. Clearly, good cards in Simba and Mother Knows Best, but Be Prepared is hard to beat. Now, I'm going to have this discussion again. Be Prepared obviously has more raw power than Grab Your Sword, but I feel like Grab Your Sword is just so playable. You know, your chances of singing Grab Your Sword are really good. Be Prepared, not so much. I feel like I probably said this 2 or 3 times in other draft videos because it's true. um, be Prepared. You almost have to build around it. You kind of have to, there's this weird thing where it's like, if I had it in my opening hand, I would probably mulligan it. That might not be correct, but I probably would. Jeez, another amazing pack. And as you can see, it's missing a foil. I did have to ask my opponent what they took here, and they took a foil Stitch. Unfortunately, it was not a Rockstar or a Carefree Surfer, but a Stitch Abomination. Um, but so yeah, really not a tough pick, but not just for money. Cusco's worth still a few bucks. I think maybe 10 or $11. So yeah, great card there. But as I was saying before, with Be Prepared, very likely to mulligan it. So unless I draw it off the mulligan and have it in my hand, you kind of just have to play to it. You have to purposely play fewer things on the board without getting your opponent suspicious, and being able to drop it to get a bunch of value. And then you also want to do it when they're kind of low on cards, because since you're unlikely to sing it, they're going to get to play something first still and still kind of have that tempo advantage. But you should have hopefully be able to set up to have a card advantage here. All right, so tough choice here because I know that I've got a lot of more expensive cards, so I kind of really am valuing ramp highly right now. I've got Cusco, Mad Hatter, a bunch of other 5 drops. Looks like I do my best to be disciplined and take the Abu there. Um, Immediately, the 2 drops kind of standing out here because Cinderella is also a great pick here, but maybe I do take the Cinderella here just because it's uncommon. More likely to not come back. Uh, it's very interesting how, even if you don't have 5 cost songs, I feel like Cinderella is just much better than Maleficent to me. The 2/5 body versus 3/4. I don't know if it just hits that sweet spot where a couple 2/2s aren't good enough to trade with Cinderella. So yeah, look like again the ramp. I'm definitely putting a premium on here. Um, and Grammatala is a much better ramp than One Jump Ahead. So probably still rate it as it's a toss up between Grammatala and Detective Mickey. Um, Detective Mickey just does a little bit on the board, more on the board. You can probably get in for a piece, like a piece of damage, and have maybe not a favorable trade, but like it just does a little bit more, and you're likely to get a little bit of the lore out of it. Whereas Grammatala just is there to become ink, and it kind of is rough because you don't get the ink for at least a couple turns. Whereas with Mickey, you get it immediately, so Mickey might take it there. Cinderella would be perfectly fine there, but seeing the best 2/2 1 drop, I'm going to take it there. Now, that being said, I do think that there's a lot of stuff in set 2 that makes 1/3s for 1 much better. There's a lot more support, the actual mechanic itself, right? There's a lot more characters with support. There's just a lot more stuff that I think will, you'll want that extra willpower instead of the extra power or strength. Yeah, looks like choosing between a bunch of not great stuff. I don't want the beast here, it's too much. But do I want a 2 drop? Do I want more 3 drops? What am I trying to do here? I know I need both. I'm definitely low on both. I still have just a ton of 5 drops. Either one of these is honestly fine here. You do want to make sure you have enough 2 drops to make past it, but again, still kind of floating with my theory of 3 drops here. So while I like that Tinkerbell, it is a card that, unless I'm really at very, very few uninkables, I'm just going to pass it. I think that surprises people. I think other people have that card much higher. But I mean, look at that 3-cost Peter Pan. That trades with that Tinkerbell. So you know, while evasive is at a premium, I think that one's just not quite good enough, especially being uninkable. A little bit of a spoiler alert here, but I do get a lot more evasives late in this draft. Quite lucky because I definitely don't see very many early on. And I think, unfortunately, the conclusion is kind of that with this first set, if you just stack evasives and just curve out evasives, you're probably going to win a lot of games unless they have just all the answers because there's not a whole lot you can do. This is a tough one. Jasmine is very good. I think I take the one drop here probably. I just want to get my one drops done and out of the way, whether that's correct or not. So you see here, I'm going to go review real quick. How many do I have? I've got 3 one drops already, which is not bad. I'm pretty much halfway through, but if I take one now, I don't have to worry about it. Or I can take the Jasmine. Maybe the Jasmine would have been correct here because I think I end up with, able to pass a bunch of 1-1s. Not a bunch of good choices here. They're all kind of meh. Back to what I was saying about evasives, though, I hope that it'll be less of an issue in set 2, because there are 2 3/2s that get evasive on your turn. I believe it's Cruella de Vil and Sapphire, and is it Jafar? I think it's a villain in Steel. Oh, I mean, happy to see a late Mufasa. My curve is, again, still too high, and I'm still going to take the Inkable over the Knot. It's just that important to me. I really want to be playing, I think, two uninkables. Maybe that number could be probably 3 or 4, but if there's some more manipulation of some kind in future sets, but it's just they're so difficult to manage, and I do think this only holds true for the first set. I think the second set draft will be crazy. I think there's going to be so many more combos and interactions that you can draft towards, mini strategies and themes that you can draft towards in Rise of the Floodborn Limited. So I'm very, very excited. I'm also very lucky that there are stores that do drafts here, so I should be able to do a draft on Friday night of release. Don't know that I expect to do any more drafts for quite some time for the second set, but I'm going to take it where I can get it. So very happy to have that. Hopefully have a video out for you. Also, that Sunday I'll be doing a 6-pack sealed release event, so that'll be fun to do as well. I don't think, while I made a bunch of sealed decks on this channel, I don't know that I ever actually played in a full sealed tournament. I think most release events are still going to be starter deck plus maybe a pack or 2, if any. Those are fun, but they're very, very dependent on what you open, and then depending on the balance of the starter decks. At least there's only 2 starter decks this time, so I wonder how they balance them against each other. The first set, the 3 were kind of supposed to be rock, paper, scissors, but I definitely felt like the Sapphire Steel was at a disadvantage unless it drew very, very well. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I don't think the deck lists for the starter decks have technically been revealed. There was kind of a leak with a bunch of the cards, but I don't even know that it was all of them. So yeah, it feels weird though. It's just a week away. We still don't technically have the full set revealed, and I don't even know if there's been any announcement about Enchanteds at all, and what we can expect there. So it'll be very exciting as people post what they open. A bunch of vanilla stuff, another chance at a Kronk, Moana, and an Artful Rogue. Wonder if Foil Beast is still worth anything. We got the new steel card that I can't remember the stats right now. Is it a 2/3 for 3 that quests for 2? That breaks an item when it comes into play. It'll be very interesting. Lots of good cards here too. Foil 1 jump is always tempting. Jasper is a very strong card, and if it's the 3-drop thing, that'll probably be the pick. Scar is great late game, but we just have so much late game already. I do like Scar a lot just because it is inkable. It really, if you have any sort of board late game, you can trade a couple small things into a big thing without even necessarily losing any of them. All right, here's the pick here. think, do I take that? I'm pretty sure I go back and take that You Have Forgotten Me, because uh, maybe I get lucky and get a later one. What am I doing? Sorry, this is maybe a week or two ago, so not fully fresh in my mind. But You Have Forgotten Me, very, very strong and limited. It just it's interesting because there's unless you ramp right, you're going to be playing on turn 4 at the earliest, and very likely a little bit after that. And what that means is just your opponent's cards are just so limited at that point. They're going to have to choose between, okay, well, maybe I can keep a card that's lower cost and just keep playing them, versus, you know, inking and possibly just inking for a turn and doing nothing because their resources are limited. So, again, I really want to just play something on every turn up until turn 6 or 7, depending on if I'm going first or second, and then you're just kind of in top deck mode from there, unless you have a lot of card draw. I think that level of consistency, for at least for the first chapter, would just win you a lot. Do another quick look through. And one thing with Dr. Facilier is perfectly fine if you can shift him into the 7 cost, but otherwise I'm not super excited to be playing him. Just usually just ends up trading with 1/2/2 anyways. They have another one that comes back and banishes it. That looked like a pretty vanilla pack there. Take a vanilla card. Alright, that reflection. Hoping it'll finally see some play. Yeah, Kronkerflonder. Again, pretty confident in my top end already, or am I not? Oh, changed my mind. I'm still usually aiming for 6 1-drops. That's pretty much it. And if they can all be 2/2, that's perfect. And I think that's what I end up with here. Alright. Getting close to finishing the 3rd pack here. Let's kind of talk about the matches a little bit. I think the first round, my opponent was the person who was on my left, who maybe a little bit definitely knew how to play the game, but maybe new to drafting. So card evaluation was maybe not as experienced, and so just played against some cards that were maybe a lot of actions, which many of them I think are not very good in this first set. So yeah, again, just kind of picking between 1-2 drops. I'm currently a little bit more down on Merlin. It's interesting as I play more with, for an example, as a more constructed playable card, Maximus. Stuff that has support but only quests for 1. Man, I think that's kind of where, see, like Chief Tui, that's great. Now that one's hard to get into play and do a lot with, but just the idea of that, well, you're incentivized to quest with it instead of challenging with it, but a lot of them have bigger bodies, so alright, pick up a good 2-drop here. Just kind of filling out some holes in the deck. But yeah, my second round opponent probably felt like had the next strongest draft. Ton of removal. Um, Dragonfire, Smash. I think two, at least 2 smashes. Um, and Grab Your Sword, which was tough. I think I lost game 1. And then, once they have a Grab Your Sword, at least you can play around it a little bit. And that's where Jasmine really came into play. And then also, I think You Have Forgotten Me in game 3 helped me seal a win there, despite my opponent having Grab Your Sword, I think, in all 3 games. So felt good to play against it and win a game, because good to know that it's doable. Because don't know if I've lost any games where I've played Grab Your Sword. Yeah, I mean, Scar is playable, Healing Glow is less playable. So again, I'll just take something that I can at least throw in my deck if I have to. Remember, only 2 cards per pack that you can be okay with not playing. Man, Sebastian, I still haven't even necessarily seen anything in the new set that I would be excited to have Sebastian for. There are a lot of good songs, so maybe I haven't observed it clearly enough, but Sebastian's body just doesn't seem to justify it. And then they also printed I think it's a Cinderella that costs one and sings for three, so that just seems. Well, Sebastian sings four, right? So I have to go back through and see if there are any good four cost songs that are new. We also got a new broom revealed, so if we ever do a mixed draft, that could be a lot of fun to see see Sorcerer Mickey with a new broom. All right, bunch of unequal cards. Yeah, we're just gonna ignore those. Still want to consider the ramp here, but I think the pick's gonna be the evasive 3/4 body trades with almost every, so trades with that 5 cost Tinkerbell, right? And look at that, pass another Goofy, and my deck just got significantly better. That Goofy is not bad either. Don't get the foil flounder, but Goofy, the evasive Goofy is just the best pick, best card there. All right, wrapping up this final pack. Jetsam, solid card. See if we have anything better. Maximus, Foil Mother knows best. I think that's probably the pick. Foil, worth a few bucks, and it's a perfectly good card for our deck. Sucks that it's uninkable, but given that I have Goofies, I'm less on the Jetsam because Jetsam can't kill the Goofies. But Jetsam does kill, Pongo and Tinkerbell, the Emerald Tinkerbell without trading. So Jetsam is a pretty good. If you have, just no evasive cards, pretty good. Another Stitch, another Archimedes, but I think I'm full up at this point. I'm not sure what I take. I might take the Flotsam here just because there have been a bunch of Jetsams and I don't want that to happen, but I may also take. I think I already have a Stitch, so I don't think I take the Stitch here. I think I just basically hate draft the Flotsam here. I don't think it's really worth any money, but kind of the idea is that maybe one of my opponents has a bunch of Jetsams, so if they get this Flotsam, they'll do a lot with it. So that would be the thought process there. Looks like I just take the Aurora because I don't care if they have the Jetsams, but it's much harder to hate draft in the in this set when you can play any color, right? The idea in something like where inks would matter, right? Is like, oh, I'm in these two inks, but there's just some amazing card in this other ink that I just lose to. I'll just if there's nothing else good in the pack, I might take it to prevent whoever at the table has it is in that ink color, so that I don't have to worry about it. But since we just use any ink color, you can usually just take the card for yourself. Looks like Tinkerbell, some more evasive towards the end. Very nice. But yeah, I mean, I'm still waiting kind of to see the entire set before I review it. I mean, obviously, I like to see all the spoilers, like to see all the new cards from the new set, but I mean, you're limited in your analysis until you see every card, right? Because the context matters. Now, obviously, we do have like 75% of the set, so probably do a little bit more. Another evasive, so picked up 4 evasives in the last pack. Just drastically improved my deck. I'm pretty sure that was my win condition for most of my games, so would have been a very different draft if I had not not picked those up. And sometimes that's just how the packs fall, right? I mean, you can only do what you're given. This was a tough pick. Be Our Guest is probably I don't know, might only be like, prices are dropping, so I mean it was $5 for a while, but it may have dropped. I wanted a 3-drop. I wanted the Maximus because I knew my 3-drops were low, but I also knew I have basically 0 card draw, so got to take the Beast Mirror just to give yourself that out for a longer game. And I talk a lot about curving out and just winning board position, but obviously things happen. Your opponent's got actions, got other things trying to disrupt you, or vice versa. If you curve out, things may just you still stall. Like Beast Mirror is just going to be ink if you get it early on, but if you get it late, it can just drag you across the finish line. If you and your opponent are both in top deck mode, if you're drawing 2 cards a turn, you're gonna win very quickly. All right, bunch of cards I don't want to play, so I think I take the card that I'm most likely to play, which is the Scimitar, which I did end up having to put in my deck, and I actually did play it in one game over a character, and I regretted it. I mean, it got me, it let me kill, let me, I don't remember what it was exactly, but something with 3 willpower. I had something with 2 strength, and I was able to play and banish something, and I was like, oh, now I have a stolen Scimitar on the board. It'll be interesting, and it was like, no, I probably would have just rather had the other character on the board. So, unfortunately, still not great. Maybe if you had a bunch of the 2/1 Aladdins or something, being able to trade into some 4-drop 4 willpower, that might be better. But yeah, I'm sure. If you're relatively new to limited, there's a lot of experience bias with cards like that, where someone may play that card and do. It looks like I was bored and put my puzzle pieces together. Yeah, I mean, someone might play a card like that, do very, very well with it, and then have a bias thinking that it's a great card, and then not understanding that just because it was good in that situation does not happen very often. In my last round, for example, my opponent had Scepter of Arendelle. I asked them how it had been for them throughout the day, and they said that it had been good, but it basically did nothing against me. I don't know if I was able to play around it somehow, or again maybe it was luck, or things just worked out for them with the Scepter in other games. But I would argue that in most games the Scepter is just not going to cut it. That card could be another character on the board. It's just too big of a deal. Yeah, sorry, I'm not necessarily talking about the picks as much. I think some of them are pretty self-explanatory, so kind of just skip them there. Definitely running up to the end here, so was able to 3-0 this draft. Like I said, was definitely a softer pod than the one next to me, but these experiences are always fun. Drafting is a lot of fun, and then playing limited games is also a lot of fun, so very happy to do these, and very excited for the next set. I'll probably just show off the deck real quick in its whole form at the end of this, but yeah, really dragging on this last last couple picks here. All right, last pick, Tangle, great. All right, that's the draft. All right, we'll just go over the draft deck real quick. Here are the cards I didn't play: Stampede, Rapunzel, Tangle, Sebastian, Vicious Betrayal, Cut to the Chase, Scar, another Vicious Betrayal. All right, so our 6 1-drops, perfect, exactly what we want. Talked about the Stolen Scimitar, don't really care about it. Beast Mirror is good late, and so we're kind of skipping here. We do have 6 characters, which is good, but this is more of a ramp card, which is fine. But we got 4 2/3s, which is very good, and our 1 Aladdin here. All right, we did get a Mickey for ramping, and 1 2 3 4 5. So only 5 3-drop characters, or sorry, with Mickey 6. Again, I think this is on the low side, but there's a reason why in this deck. Got a nice shiny Mother Knows Best. And for 4 drops, also a little bit on the low side. We did end up with an Aurora and a Scar and an Anna, a bunch of cards we don't really want to play. But also with Mickey Mouse, we kind of don't want to be playing 4 drops. We kind of want to skip the 4-drop slot, except for maybe, Pongo, You Have Forgotten Me, and Tinkerbell. We want to skip straight to the 5 drops and basically just drop a 5 or a 6 drop every turn until we win. Easy to do with Mad Hatter, a couple Goofies, Moana, and a Cusco. This Cusco was not foil when I drafted it. I actually managed to, in between rounds of the draft, trade for it, Enchanted Elsa, and complete my set. One of the cards in there was a Cusco. So I had a foil Cusco, but just the value ended up wanting to trade a regular one, so swapped it out for the deck. Hopefully no one minded. Jasmine, and
then Kronk, Mufasa. I don't think I ever got to play the Kronk, unfortunately. Be Prepared, did get to play that once, was very, very effective. Unfortunately, did not get to play this again. I think I inked twice and then just didn't see it outside of that. I think it's still perfectly fine to play. Probably just be ink. But, you know, unlikely to actually be played. I don't know what they could do with this to make this more played. I absolutely love this art, and I really hope that this card sees play somehow. I don't know that we've seen any new Mickey Mouse cards in the second set, besides for the Amber one. So maybe that'll be the only Mickey Mouse card. I mean, they did have 7 in the first set. I get it. Maybe they don't want to go overboard. And glad to finally see, you know, a bunch of Donalds and a Goofy or two, maybe just one. No Pluto card yet somehow. We did get Daisy, so kind of got the main cast there finally. But yeah, really hoping to see this card somehow see more play. Maybe it never will. It's just meant to be iconic, but we'll see. So that kind of wraps up drafting for the first chapter for me. Probably not likely to do any more anytime soon. That being said, maybe I'll get the itch if there's just no Rise of the Floodborn available. But again, we will see. I hope you all have a good week leading up to the release, and once release comes, I hope you're able to get product. Hope you're able to open really well. Thank you for watching.